Weedle is the weakest Pokemon that theoretically could beat Gen 1 in a solo challenge. In practice, however, you'd have better chances of getting struck by lightning, having a meteor fall on your head, and winning the lottery all at the same time than you would actually have of beating the entire game with this Pokemon in an itemless solo challenge. And the reason is pretty simple. On top of the fact that Bug and Poison are terrible typings in Gen 1, this Pokemon has only 175 base stat total, and it only knows one attacking move, Poison Sting, which is a 15 base power move. So of course, Weedle is practically impossible to beat the game with. But that begs a question. What if we just gave this Pokemon better stats? Well, to test it out, I decided to give it the best possible stats, a massive 255 base in every single stat, leading to a whopping 1,275 base stat total. Now, to put that in perspective, Mewtwo, the most overpowered Pokemon in Generation 1, has a base stat total of 590. So we have more than double the base stat total of the best Pokemon in the game. Add on to that this Pokemon's effectively going to have a 50% critical hit chance. This Pokemon could be completely broken, but will it work out in practice? Well, this is the latest in a series of runs I've done over the past couple of years where we're comparing how stats stack up to movesets. And up to this point, movesets have always trumped stats. A weak Pokemon with overpowered moves will absolutely crush the game faster than a strong Pokemon with weak moves. But this might be the situation where everything flips on its head. Last week, we beat the entire game with a 0 base stat total Mewtwo, but it took level 92 to get it done, and we were still using some of the most broken mechanics in Generation 1. This Pokemon, on the other hand, might be able to crush the game entirely just based on the fact that its stats are so incredibly good. But will this actually work out? Let's test it and find out. Now, in order to ensure an apples-to-apples comparison, I'm going to be running on 0 DVs. That way, only base stats are making an impact on this. Of course, if we added on 15 DVs to this Pokemon, its stats would be even higher, but I think 255 base is enough for us to test just how good a Weedle would actually be. So Professor Oak's gonna get this amazing little Weedle outside of Pallet Town, and he's immediately going to use it in an experiment. He's gonna see if we can completely destroy his jerk of a grandson by simply using this overpowered Pokemon. Today we will be running with the legend that is Goddle 42069, the most overpowered Pokemon in the game. Now, our 0 DVs don't come in until we level up, but the first thing that you'll see is that our speed is 30, and that is actually the lowest a stat can ever be on a 255 base stat Pokemon. The calculation is 255 times 2 times our level. So in this case, 255 times 2 would be 510, times our level 5 would be 2,550. Then you divide that whole value by 100, which the game always rounds down, so it becomes 25. Then you simply add 5 for any non-HP stat, resulting in a value of at least 30, and for HP you add 10 plus your level, so effectively 15 onto that. Now, because we seem to have slightly higher DVs at this point, we're getting 41 HP rather than 40, and we're getting 31 in our other stats rather than 30, but once we level up, everything will balance out. So with that, let's get into this first fight against our rival and see how we do. So here against the rival's Eevee, I'm going to use Poison Sting, and a critical hit still does less than half damage. We only did 8 damage to the Eevee in spite of our amazing stats because Poison Sting is such a weak move. Now, we did poison this Pokemon. It's still going to end up being like a 3 or 4 hit KO. We can get the 3-hitter thanks to the crits, and we do manage to level up. Now we can see all of our stats have recalculated correctly. We have 35 in every stat except for our HP, which is 46. And with that, we're ready to make our way through the game. Now, I've done just very limited testing with this Pokemon. I just went through the Brock section because I wanted to see how it would actually work out. The whole issue with Brock for a Weedle is that he's 4 times resistant to Poison Sting. So that means that he's basically impossible for a normal Weedle. In fact, the damage calculation rounds so that without a critical hit, a normal Weedle can't even damage his Geodude or his Onix. In this case though, we are going to be able to do some damage, so let's get straight into that battle and see how it actually goes. So in our first attempt against Brock on minimum battles, we're going to see that Poison Sting with a critical hit still does 1 damage. That is because it is 4 times resisted. There's simply no way for us to get more damage than that, and we can see he's doing 3 damage per hit against our Weedle. So the way that it works out here at level 6 is that we are always going to basically get knocked out by the Geodude. We could get really god tier luck where we get tons of poisons on this Pokemon and then slowly whittle him down just to run out of PP on the Onix. But basically, this fight is impossible. Even with the best possible stats on a Weedle, you're not going to beat Brock on minimum battles. So that's a little bit disappointing, but let's get back into Viridian Forest because I have found a strategy that does work. The first thing that we're going to have to do is fight all of these bug catchers in Viridian Forest. They're not hard at all because poison is super effective here and we have amazing stats, so they don't really do any damage to us. And with the 3 bug catchers easily dispatched in Viridian Forest, I'm now going to go back to Brock's gym to take on the Light Years Junior trainer. Now, normally this would be another trainer who resists Poison Sting, so it would be basically impossible for a Weedle, but here I think we can manage to get it to go. We are actually faster than a Pokemon like Diglett, and we can see this is like a 4-hit KO to get through that Pokemon. We get to level 10, and now the Sandshrew, yet again, it's pretty defensively bulky, but we're going to be able to get through just because of our amazing stats. And just like that, we have managed to win that fight, and I'm going to go ahead and just heal with a single potion. Now, there was one step that I forgot, which is simply to use up all of my String Shot PP on a Metapod. I could have done it on one of the bug catchers. I just forgot, so I'm going to use up all of my PP on this random Metapod, and then I'm just going to run away from this Pokemon. And with all of that PP used up, I'm simply going to run back to the gym now, being sure not to heal in the Pokemon Center. So now let's try Brock round 2 at level 10 and see how he goes. So here I'm coming into this fight with only 16 PP in Poison Sting, but I'm simply going to hold Auto A and just use the Poison Sting over and over again on this Geodude. We can see it's only doing 2 damage per hit against us now, so we will actually get through this Geodude every single time. But even better yet, after using up all the Poison Stings, we can struggle and easily knock that Pokemon out. We get to level 11, and here Struggle is doing 6 damage to this Onix. So this is a 7-hit KO, and sure, he can Bide. That's actually kind of the worst thing that he could do, but even then it's not enough. And by coming in at level 10 to this fight, we can actually win. We gained 2 levels. We got to level 12 in only 9 minutes and 50 seconds. We were able to beat Brock. That includes time for me to sit here and explain things, so really not a bad time. We had 1 reset due to that first attempt against Brock, and we took 4 optional battles, but we've beaten him in record time with a Weedle, and it's time to move on in the game. And so now the best strategy for this Pokemon, I think, is simply to buy a lot of potions and run through the game just healing with potions and using Struggle for a massive amount of time because we have so much HP. Now, one change that I did make to this ROM was that I changed any trainer that has a Weedle to instead have a Caterpie. That's just so that we don't get stuck in some sort of ridiculously long fight against an enemy Weedle, but we can see we're easily going to win these fights either way, because I mean, we would be using Struggle and their Weedle wouldn't, so eventually we would simply get it to go. But here, since Struggle is effectively a 50 base power move, it's more than double the power of Poison Sting, so a lot of these fights we're simply going to get easy 1-hit KOs on our opponents. So I'm just gonna go with my standard minimum battles routing here. And now you might be asking, why didn't you go in on minimum battles with only Struggle? And the reason is because of the fact that number 1, we wouldn't have had enough HP after we got through that Geodude, and number 2, we wouldn't have been able to survive long enough to use up all of our Poison Stings without fighting some like wild Pokemon, so it just wouldn't have made sense. Here, however, we are going to easily survive and be able to get through all these fights in very, very easy time. So let's get straight to the Super Nerd at the end of Mount Moon and just see what the ranges end up looking like against him. Now, I will run around and pick up random items simply so that I can sell them for money, because we're just going to want to keep having lots and lots of potions in our bag, basically until we get to something like a ghost. But of course, without thinking, I did heal coming into Mount Moon. It's kind of a force force of habit. So here we'll take on the Super Nerd with Poison Sting, and we can see that this move is looking like maybe a 5 or 6 hit KO on the Grimer. He disables String Shot, but that's not really an issue. Here we're going to get a 2-hit range on the Voltorb, and now at level 15 against the Coughing, we're simply going to spam our Poison Sting. This might be a 7-hit KO, but it does no damage to us, so we easily get through. With that, we can get Lord Dome, and it's time to move on to Jesse and James. So here against Jesse and James's Ekans, we actually like getting Leer because that gives us a badge boost in attack, so we're just going to get a little stronger, and it's still not going to do much damage to us. Growl, on the other hand, is kind of bad, but we're still going to do more than enough damage here to this Coughing. It's just going to be tedious, but we're going to win this fight every single time. So outside of Brock to this point, there really hasn't been an issue, but we now have to take on rival number 2, who's going to have a Spearow that has a super effective Peck. Peck might be strong enough to actually do decent damage against this Pokemon. Let's find out. Now, of course, at this point, I have not tested this section, so I'm just in uncharted water, but I think we're going to be able to get through this fight pretty easily. Let's find out. So rival 2 attempt number 1, Poison Sting, does over half with a critical hit to the Spearow, and it's a 2-hit KO. Out next is the Sandshrew. We are doing pretty decent damage here. We get the poison even though he does start sand attacking us. Definitely not what we wanted to see, and after 2 sand attacks we seem to not hit anything, but we do manage to knock that Pokemon out. Out next is the Rattata. We nearly one-shot it with a Poison Sting, and now the Eevee gets poisoned, and this looks to be a 3-hit KO once we can actually land the hits. And just like that, rival 2 goes down to a level 17 Weedle. Now, I don't even need to say that a normal Weedle would have no shot there. No shot whatsoever with 175 base stats. This Weedle, on the other hand, is completely broken. In fact, it's so broken, I think instead of fighting all the randos up north, I'm going to come and try to fight Misty at least one time. Let's just see how she goes. So Misty attempt number 1, Poison Sting did over half to the Staryu, and then we knock it out in the next hit. Out comes the Starmie. We did not quite as much damage here, and it raises its defense. Kind of bad, but a critical hit does cut through that defense, and it gets poisoned. And even after the X defend, we simply knock her out, get to level 19, and Misty goes down in 16 minutes and 24 seconds to a Weedle. That is ridiculous. That does not happen, especially because we're 4 battles over minimum battles with this one. Like really not that bad, and we're just kind of cruising at this point. In fact, the biggest challenge of this run, I think, is going to be to not accidentally evolve into a Kakuna, since Kakuna is not going to have these stats. I only changed the stats on Weedle, so Kakuna would get completely wrecked here. But with that, let's make our way up north across the Nugget Bridge. I don't expect any challenge here. I'll comment if something is interesting, but otherwise, let's skip straight ahead to rival number 3. Now, I guess the one interesting thing is that at level 20-21, we already have higher stats than a 0 base stats Pokemon could ever achieve at level 100. And because we're close to minimum battles, we don't have much stat experience, so most of the stats that we have is simply due to our massive base stat total, and that tells us just how big of an impact these base stats have on a run. In fact, my stats are so high at this point that rather than going back to heal at the Pokemon Center, I've decided to just try to use up all of my String Shot PP against this random Nidoran male. It's using a Leer on me, so I actually have lower defense, but it's still not doing that much damage. Still, in the end, it was a mistake because I ended up knocking myself out. So I suppose I do have to be a little more careful about my strategy choices, but we do in fact end up getting a run where we do use up all of our PvP there, so I'm just going to go through the rest of these trainers with struggle. And as we just simply one-shot all of Oddish Lass's Pokemon, we can get to Billy Boy's house, where we're going to come in and show him Goddle 42069, and he's going to say that is the coolest Pokemon I've ever seen. I want to combine with that one this time. Now, unfortunately, he's going to be bummed out because we have to go make some progress in this run, but we'll promise him that we'll come back at the very end so that he can combine with this Weedle. So now coming into the rival 3 fight, we're at level 23, and we can see that we already have 125 in all of our stats. Plus we have 153 HP. I'm not even going to heal all the way. Let's just get straight into this. So the power of our struggle cannot be overstated because we just one-shot the Spearow. Out comes Rattata, it's another one-hit KO. Here against the Sandshrew, it's going to be a two-hitter, but we easily get through that. And now at level 24, Eevee is almost a one-hit KO, but we get the two-hitter and easily win. So outside of a couple resets for my own shenanigans, we had no trouble in that entire section, and we're ready to go take on Lieutenant Surge, where I'm just going to stick with the struggle strats. I don't think we're going to have any issue with him. In fact, the biggest thing here is just going to be digging through the trash because Lieutenant Surge was clearly a garbage man in a past life. But here we're simply going to recover some HP with a bunch of potions, and then let's get into this fight. So first things first, we can see that we massively outspeed this Raichu. Struggle with a critical hit, nearly gets a one-hitter. He mega kicks, it meant nothing to us, and we easily destroy him on the next turn. So 28 minutes, 46 seconds to get through Lieutenant Surge. I'm not even trying to play fast, guys. The real measure of this Pokemon is that we still have not added on any additional battles. We still have 3 resets. And if I had not wasted a ton of time just trying to beat that random trainer by using up all my PP, we would have gotten through this even faster. So this Weedle is way too good. But in the next section, we do have to see how we'll do against the Rock Tunnel Hiker. We're not going to do a ton of damage to his Pokemon since they resist struggle. And when an opponent hits you with the move Self-Destruct, it actually lowers your defense in the calculation. Still, even with Self-Destruct cutting our defense in half, it might not be enough to actually pose any threat outside of the fact that we're also using struggle, so we're not going to be at full health at that point. But we'll just have to see when we get there. First things first, we got to take on the Wrapping Lass, and she is not ready for Goddle 42069 coming in here and just one-shotting her Pokemon with these epic struggles. Now, the other thing that is causing a time loss, though, is the fact that it takes so long to heal with potions just because we have such a massive HP stat. Still, I'll take it in order to keep using struggle in this section. And everything up to this point in the Rock Tunnel has just been basically a 2-hit KO at worst, but now it's time to take on the Rock Tunnel Hiker. And I actually want to reset so I properly heal on this one. We do have a max potion in the bag, I'll just go ahead and use it. Let's see how we actually do against his rock types. So first things first, struggle with a critical hit did over half, but in general this is going to be probably a 4-hit KO without his defense curls. Still, we get through the first 2 Geodudes without any self-destructs. We're to the final Graveler. Rock Throw doesn't do that much. He goes boom, but we didn't care. Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh man, this Weedle, he's far too powerful. So now let's just spam the quick heal, get straight into the final fight, and then we're on to Celadon City. Now fortunately, Celadon City is a place where we can start to get access to super potions, which should make our healing quite a bit faster as we continue in this run. Of course, we're gonna really want to get down to Fuchsia City and get hyper potions. That will really help, but until then, this is a pretty good compromise. Now, I'm not going to use any money on vitamins in this one because honestly, I don't even think we're going to need them. We'll see. Maybe if we get to Agatha and we hit a wall, we'll go for some vitamin strats. For now, though, I'm going to go more for the convenience of not having to go back to the Pokemon Center to heal so that we can keep using struggle strats. And with that, I think we just make our way straight to Erica because she's not going to be super hard for this Pokemon. We have a 4x resistance to grass and we're only neutrally affected by poison. So I think this is going to be a pretty easy fight, but let's see how it actually goes. So first up is Tangela, where struggle is not that overpowered. We did like 29 damage there. This is going to be a 3-hit KO without a crit. And in fact, she even survives on 2 HP, so it took 4 hits to get through that Pokemon. The Weepinbell out next, though, we get a critical hit and we nearly one-shot it. Another crit takes it out after a super potion. And finally, Gloom comes out. It goes Petal Dance. and we are going to knock her out in 3 hits, getting through Erica on the first attempt at 39 minutes and 44 seconds. And I took 1 reset due to routing there, but really not anything too bad. So we're yet again just continuing basically on minimum battles post Brock. Just because this Pokemon is so completely overpowered, we've already made it to level 29, and our stats are looking like a lot of Pokemon at the end of the game in my standard full game solo runs. So I'm really feeling good about this one. Let's get into the Rocket Hideout. Let's just beat up on Team Rocket and progress in the game. So we're really doing quite good at this point in the game, but we have to keep in mind, as I always say in these solo challenges, all of this is the easy part. The challenge doesn't really come in until we get to Rival 5 and Koga, and Koga is going to be using super effective moves against us, so that might be where we finally hit a wall. But for now, I think we're just going to destroy Team Rocket, so let's just get to it. Now, I will grab PP ups, but I'm generally going to refrain from using them because they would just make it harder to get back to using Struggle if we do have to heal at some point. I think the only place where the PP ups might actually be important is when we get to Agatha, because without a PP up, I don't think we're going to get through her. But now it's just time for Jesse and James. Let's see how they go now at our advanced level. Against this coughing, we one-shot with a critical hit Struggle. We get to level 30, Meowth goes down in a single hit, Ekans, more of the same, and we easily get through that fight. So now it's time for Giovanni himself, where he's going to face up against this little wasp larva, and he's going to get completely destroyed, I think. Rock Throw's not that strong against us. We did get a Gen 1 miss with Struggle though. Still, we managed to get through that Pokemon just fine onto Rhyhorn, where this is looking like maybe a 4-hit KO. We get a nice critical hit there, so we knock it out in 3 turns. And against the Persian, it's a 1-hitter. We easily progress and get to level 31. So even with minimal stat experience, we're sitting here with 168 in every stat. Of course, attack and defense also have badge boosts, and 204 HP already in this run. And now with the Sylph Scope in hand, it's time to just go to Lavender and take on rival number 4, where we're just gonna keep doing more of the same struggle strats until we win. So here rival 4 is gonna lead off with Fearow. It's gonna be an easy 2-hit KO. He heals with the potion, doesn't matter. The Magnemite is a 1-hitter. Shelder gets almost 1-shot. He heals yet again. The heals are kind of bad because that means we're taking more recoil damage. Out next is the Sandshrew. We 1-shot it, and Eevee gets a 1-hit KO, so we easily get through the rival. But now we do actually have to go out and heal because of the fact that we're about to fight Channelers who have Ghastlies. Ghastly cannot be hit by Struggle in Generation 1 because in this generation, for some reason, they made Struggle a normal type move, something they realized and fixed in Gen 2. But what that means is that we have to go back to using Poison Sting, which is 4 times resisted, in order to get through these Channelers. Let's see how much damage we actually do. Of course, Ghastly does not have great defense, 22 defense versus our 195 attack stat, but that still means with a critical hit, we did less than half damage to the Ghastly with our first Poison Sting. So this turns out to be a 4-hit KO on this Pokemon. We're also getting confused, which could be bad if we hit ourselves because we have a really high attack. And Nightshade does do decent damage, but we are going to get through these traders just fine, as long as they don't have a move like Psychic that can easily knock us out. That might be foreshadowing for Agatha later in the run. Now, this is also a section where if we stay close to minimum battles, we have to heal in the Purified Protected Zone. So even if we could struggle, we would have had to heal right there anyway, or take an optional battle, which I'll just take the heal. But fortunately, we get through all those Channelers nice and easy. I'm going to avoid any heals here. I'm just going to simply use potions to recover my HP, and we will try to get back to struggle as quickly as possible, starting off with this Ghost Marowak. Now, Marowak knows Bone Club, Tail Whip, Headbutt, and Leer. I'm not sure it's going to do a lot of damage though, so I'm going to at least spam the string shots here just to see. Now, it is doing decent damage, so I don't think I'm going to be able to use all the string shots in a single battle, but that's perfectly fine. We simply want to get to the point where we have fewer string shots when we try to use them up later on. Now I'm getting my defense pretty low though, so I am going to go in on some attacks here. We managed to poison Ghost Dimama, so we easily get through that fight. And now it's time to move on to Jesse and James at the end of the Pokemon Tower. So here yet again, I'm just going to spam some of my string shots because I don't think we're going to have too much trouble getting through this. Granted, getting Growl could be bad, so I'm actually going to switch into attack there and knock that Pokemon out. Out next is the Arbok. Fortunately, we do have a really high crit rate, so crits will ignore any stat drops, and we can easily get through that Pokemon. Now on Weezing, I'm going to use up more string shots because while I can use Sludge, Sludge isn't going to do that much damage, and anything other than Sludge will be pretty weak here. Still, I reckon we should get this in basically a one-hit KO range so that we can pretty easily knock it out on the next turn if we do get on low HP. And now I'm just going to keep spamming the string shots just to try to get back to using struggle strats later on. And now on low health, I'll just simply knock this Pokemon out, and we have defeated Jesse and James, and we are ready to save Mr. Fuji. Now, Mr. Fuji, of course, helped to create Mewtwo, but now he's going to find out that we actually have the perfect Pokemon. But with that whole section done, we now have to decide how to route in this run, and I'm actually going to go ahead and try to fight against our rival number 5. My logic for this is pretty simple. Koga's gym is filled with psychic type Pokemon, and even the gym leader himself uses smart AI and is just going to spam psychic moves against us over and over and over again. That might not be good even with our amazing stats, whereas against the rival, most of his team isn't going to be using psychic type moves or super effective moves, and I think we'll be able to get through them much easier. Unfortunately, against the one required trainer here, I was able to use up most of my PP, and I just used a paralyzed heal because he used glare on me, so yeah, it wasn't really that hard. And now we're ready to go and try to take on our rival. And after one reset due to a routing mistake, we are here and ready to go against our rival. Let's see how this goes. So here, Rival 5 attempt number 1, we've got 2 Poison Stings left over. Of course, they're resisted by the Sand Slash, but now we can use Struggle, and we did pretty good damage there. It's a 2-hit KO after we actually get to this move. Now, Cloyster is really defensive, and it goes Clamp, but Struggle looks to be a 3-hit or 4-hit KO on this Pokemon, depending on our ranges. Here, however, we can kind of see a problem. We're running out of HP pretty darn quickly just because this team is so bulky. So we actually knock ourselves out at the same time we knock out the Kadabra. So we clearly need to come into this fight with a little more PP than what we've got. Fortunately, I have a couple ethers in the bag, so I'm just going to spam an ether on Poison Sting. Let's see if that allows us to maybe get through the first Sand Slash and move on from there. But trying to go Poison Sting on the Sand Slash is much, much worse. We get through with very little HP remaining, and while Poison Sting is kind of meh against Cloyster, we're just not going to have enough HP to get through all of these Pokemon from here with struggle strats. So I think we're going to have to go down to Koga's gym instead if we're going to stay on anything close to minimum battles. Now, Koga's team does include weaker Pokemon, and of course they have less HP because he leads off with 3 Venonats, and of course the trainers in Koga's gym as well are going to have less HP because they're using Psychic type Pokemon. So we might be strong enough where maybe, just maybe, Struggle is enough to just one-shot these Pokemon? Let's find out. So the first Juggler comes out, he has 3 Drowsies and a Kadabra, and here we can see that Poison Sting itself is just doing plenty of damage here. So we easily get through the first 2 Drowsies, Kadabra comes out, we one-shot it with a critical hit Poison Sting even, and now we 2-shot the last Drowsy with Poison Sting. So no problems there. Let's go take on the next Juggler, who has 1 Drowsy and 1 Hypno. So here against this Pokemon, we've still got 4 PP in Poison Sting. We 2-shot the first Drowsy. Here it looks like we're not going to be able to 2-shot this Hypno, so we go into Struggle, but we easily get through and get to level 35. And after a quick heal, it's time to just see if we can manage to get through Koga. I think there might be a chance that his AI will cause him to use Toxic sometimes, because he might be thinking that Poison's super effective against Bug. Let's just see, because Gen 1 AI when it comes to type effectiveness is really weird. Maybe we can get that luck, and that could buy us some free turns. So Koga attempt number 1 here, Struggle did about half to the first Venonat. Then it uses Psychic and gets a special drop, so we're going to take more damage for the rest of this fight, but we did knock it out in 2 hits. The next Venonat is also going to be a 2-hitter, but it does go down. Third Venonat, yet again, we're going to need 2 hits to knock it out, and Psychic is too much. We simply go down. Let's try this again though, because I do want to see if Toxic is possible, or if him using an X attack might give us a chance. And that stat drop was kind of unlucky there. So second attempt, he X attacks the first Venonat, so we knock it out in 2 hits. We now Struggle and he X attacks on the second Venonat, so that's another 2-hit KO. Third Venonat, he once again uses the X attack, but this is looking like a 3-hitter just due to its higher level. And the Venomoth is looking like a 4-hit KO, so we're simply not going to get through this fight with Struggle strats either. So while we do have rare candies in the bag, this might be the point where we simply can't progress with our current moveset. I will go back and test rival number 5 one more time though, because we have gained a couple levels. Maybe, just maybe, it's enough to make an impact. So we lost the first attempt, but we did get an attack drop due to an Aurora Beam, and we had our accuracy drop, so we were taking a lot of hits. Let's see if we can get through maybe with a better range on that first Sand Slash. So this time we get back to Kadabra, but we simply couldn't hit, so we knock ourselves out again because just too much damage from his Pokemon. But I think this might be possible if we could just get better damage ranges. Hopefully opponents not using strong moves. Maybe we manage to get some crits here. So that doesn't seem to be working, but it does kind of make me wonder if we simply use some rare candies here, would we be able to get through this fight at this point? So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try going for 5 rare candies right here in the middle game, on the basis that maybe, just maybe, we get enough HP plus boosts to our other stats that we suddenly are survivable here, because that took us up to having 261 HP. So let's just try it. So here the Sand Slash is a pure 3-hit KO without critical hits now, and with a single crit we can struggle down that Cloyster no problem. We get a 2-shot on the Magneton, we 1-shot Kadabra, we level up to level 41, and we just missed on the Flareon, so we didn't get to see the range. But let's try this one again. So this time we get to the Magneton still with pretty good health. We managed to knock it out. Kadabra is still just a 1-hit KO. We level up. Flareon, critical hit 1-shot, and we survive with 5 HP remaining. So by using the rare candies, we can in fact beat rival number 5 with struggle strats, and that means we can move on in this challenge. I'm not sure if that strategy is going to come back to bite us later on. Probably will, but still, I'll take the victory for right now. With that, we can just fight Jesse and James. I don't think they're going to be trouble, so let's get straight to Giovanni. So Giovanni 2, we're just going to lead off with Struggle on his Nidorino. It's a 2-hitter. Out next is the Persian. We are going to get another 2-hit KO right there. Rhyhorn is going to be pretty defensive, but we should be able to get through this one pretty quickly. It looks like a 4-hitter after 1 crit. And finally, the Nidoqueen does not resist Struggle, so we easily knock it out in 2 hits. So just like that, we have managed to get through Giovanni, and that means that Silphco is now done. We can pick up all the items in here just so that we can buy more potions and whatnot as we go into the next section. But now I think we're going to go and take on Sabrina, because she has only 3 Pokemon on her team, and in Pokemon Yellow, she does not use Smart AI. So in theory, at least, she's easier than going to fight against Koga. Let's see if it actually works out though, because a critical hit Psychic from an Alakazam might still be too strong for us. So Sabrina first attempt, we struggle before she can even flash us there. Out comes the Kadabra, it's another 1-hit KO. Alakazam gets below half health from the first struggle, but then it X-defends. Still, it wasn't enough, and we easily destroy Sabrina on the first attempt. After an hour and 9 minutes, we've managed to beat 5 gyms. We've taken 20 resets at this point, and my optional battles popped off real quick. There, I've fixed the optional battles, so we can see the proper score is 97 at this point. point, but still really not too bad. We're like a super high S tier Pokemon at this point according to my scoring system. But now if we're going to stay on anything close to minimum battles, we have no choice. We have to take on Koga here because he's the only required trainer that's still available to us. So I want to see if I can beat the game without any more optional battles. Let's just test it out against Koga round 2. So here we're now doing well over half to the first Venonat, and we knock it out in 2 hits. The second Venonat does manage to use Psychic on us, but we do knock it out. A critical hit nearly one-shots the third Venonat. So it goes down the next turn. Venomoth is out now. Struggle, critical hits. He X attacks, and we struggle again and survive with 1 HP. So at level 43, we're like perfect for being able to get through Koga. So an hour and 10 minutes, no additional resets or battles. We beat Koga. So those 5 rare candies did in fact make a big difference on these battles. We can see we just barely have enough HP to get through these fights, but it is now working. We get the badge boost in speed. Not that it matters because we're already faster than literally every Pokemon in the game from this point onward, but still it's nice to have, knowing that we will never struggle to outspeed an opponent. So with that being done, we now just have to make our way down to Blaine. Theoretically, he's a tough fight because he's a fire type gym leader, but he doesn't use smart AI and we have amazing special. So he might not actually do that much damage to us. And he's only got 3 Pokemon, so it's not like struggle strats will be too bad there. So as we come here and answer the question about Tombstoner, I think this might be the first Pokemon ever where we don't want that move. I think struggle's going to be enough, but let's find out if that is in fact the case. So Blaine attempt number 1. Here we're going to outspeed the Ninetales, but struggle didn't do as much as I expected. Little less than half. With a critical hit, we might be able to 2-shot this Pokemon though. Instead, it's a 3-hit KO. Out next is the Rapidash. We get the crit right there. It misses Fire Spin, so it's an easy 2-hitter. Arcanine's out next. We really didn't do that much damage here. This is looking like maybe a 4-hit KO? Flamethrower did massive damage though and burned us. We managed to get the crit but then go down to the burn. So we clearly are going to need some crits to get through this fight. So back again for round 2, we get a crit turn 1 on the Ninetales and then it crits us with a Flamethrower. Very, very bad luck there. Meaning that while we do 2-shot the Rapidash, we are not going to have enough HP left to take down the Arcanine. So even with 2 hits there, we simply go down. So I think we can't take any really strong moves from our opponents. We get a really good range on the first Ninetales this time, and then we get Fire Spun by the Rapidash, but we get the 2-hit KO. And this time we do have enough HP. If we just don't get a strong move from this Arcanine, we should be able to get through. We crit turn 1 and we crit turn 2. It barely survives, but then knocks itself out with Takedown. So just like that, we do manage to get through in an hour 18 minutes. So it took a couple of resets there, but Blaine was in fact possible to beat without any additional battles. And now at level 45, we are ready to go and take on Giovanni. Now, when I did this run previously with a normal Weedle at level 100 with maxed out stat experience, I still could not beat Giovanni with a Weedle without items. This was the point where I had to start using X items and healing items in battle to have any shot of progressing. But this is Goddle for 2069. He has the powers that no other Weedle has had before. He might be the very best, like no one ever was. Still, we can even see on this Rhyhorn that struggle's not doing a lot of damage, so we are probably going to need some crazy luck in this one. Still, we have no choice but to try it, so let's try Giovanni attempt number 1. So first up, he has his Doug trio. A single struggle does one-shot that Pokemon with a crit. Out next is Persian. This Pokemon he guard specs, so we get the easy 2-hit KO. Nidoqueen's out next. It's going for Tail Whip against us because I think it thinks its other moves are resisted. I mean, I guess Thunder would be neutrally effective, but not Earthquake or Double Kick. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. Here we get a guard spec from the Nidoking and manage to knock it out. The problem is we don't have any HP left for the Rhydon, so we can't come in here with pure struggle strats because this Pokemon is going to be able to knock us out. So we're back to the drawing board here. We are going to need to come into this fight with at least a certain number of poison stings to make this work. The question is how many? We do have some PP restoration items in the bag like this ether, so let's just try that and see if maybe coming in with some poison stings at the beginning is enough to get through. So back again with poison sting. A critical hit did about a quarter there on the first Doug trio. He uses dig against us, which also crits and gets really good damage, and he then goes for sand attack on us. Really not good. We do manage to knock that Pokemon out, and now Poison Sting is going to be a little bit stronger against the Persian, but because of the accuracy drop, we're also taking a lot of damage here. Back to Nidoqueen, it goes Thunder this time and paralyzes us. Not what we wanted to see, so we're probably not winning this attempt. Now, if we do get Fissure, if we do get Sand Attack, we should do much better against this Doug trio, so let's just see if we can get that sort of luck. So this time we get more fissures there. We don't get any accuracy drops. So now we can more quickly knock out the Persian, though we did end up using up all of our PP and it screeched us multiple times. So now on Nidoqueen, we get through that one with no damage. And we get through Nidoking with no damage. We level up, we have 76 HP, and 76 HP is just not going to be enough to get through Rhydon. Even if it doesn't hit us, we take 50% recoil when we use Struggle. Later gens change that to much less, but here in this case, he has 189 HP, so we need about 95 HP left in order to be able to struggle this Rhydon down, even without it hitting us with Rock Slide. So that's clearly not enough to work, so we might just have to come in with full PP in the move Poison Sting and see how it goes. The logic here is pretty simple. If we could poison that Rhydon, we might have a chance to get through it. Now, the problem with Poison Sting is that it's 4 times resisted by Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and Rhydon, so it's not going to do great damage here. That first Poison Sting did 9 damage to this Nidoqueen. Now, if it uses Tail Whip, that will give us badge boosts and attack, which could help our ranges here, but at the same time, Thunder is doing a lot of damage. And the problem here is that when we get critical hits, we actually are negating our badge boosts and attack when we use Poison Sting, so we're actually doing less damage to our opponents. So we don't even have the ability to get through the Nidoking with Poison Sting still on. So at this point, we would have to use up all of the PP and String Shot. I'm pretty sure it's going to knock us out before that happens. So unfortunately, going in with Poison Sting also simply doesn't work. And unlike the earlier runs where we were at least dealing good damage with Struggle, here against Giovanni's Rhydon, Struggle isn't doing that much. It's not like it was a 1 or 2 hit KO there. We needed to struggle like 5 or 6 times in order to get that Pokemon down. So I think we've finally hit the point where we do in fact have to take optional battles in order to try to progress in this one. So I'm going to put all of my other Pokemon into the PC here because the most efficient level grinding, at least in terms of the number of battles that we're going to take, is actually just to fight Giovanni over and over again. He gives really good experience, far better than basically any rando trainer that we're going to find, given that his Pokemon are at such high levels. So let's test this out. Let's see if we can make it work. How many battles does it actually take to beat Giovanni? Now, you might be asking, why don't you just go slam a bunch of vitamins? For people who are new here, I basically never use vitamins in my runs. It's in the rules down below. Mewtwo was kind of an exception because that was a pure stat experience run. But for this one, we are trying to run more based on our base stats than stat experience. So I'm going to just try to battle instead to get levels for this. But But the other reason, of course, is because damage calculations as well as our stats are partially based on our level. So as we gain more levels, our stats will increase as well as the damage that we deal to our opponents. And that level-based damage will still calculate into our critical hits, so we kind of want to use this strategy. Now, if I do find a situation where I can manage to get through the Nidoking, I may come back and try to do this with struggle strats, simply because of the fact that at that point, we would be better off trying to struggle down the Rhydon. So now at level 50, I want to use up all my PP on a single Metapod and So now at level 50, I decided to use up all of my string shot PP against a random wild Metapod. And the goal is to come back here now to Giovanni and see if we're now able to defeat him. We typically get to the point of using up all of our PP in Poison Sting on the Nidoking. So if we can just manage to have enough HP there, we might be able to struggle him down. Here we still easily get through the Doug Trio. We managed to poison Persian this time. It does get a critical hit slash on us, but we get through still with pretty decent HP. Now Nidoqueen is the real grind. We just don't have any way to get through this any faster with all of this PP still in Poison Sting. This is why I've avoided using PP ups on this move, because I really don't want to have more PP than I already have. Still, we managed to get through, still on green health. We're to the Nidoking, where I still have 10 PP to use up in Poison Sting. We get paralyzed, but we should still manage to outspeed the final Rhydon, just because we have such a massive speed stat that even when you cut it into 4, it's still pretty darn good. And here we finally can struggle, so we knock out that Nidoking. We still have 146 HP here against the Rhydon, but its Rock Slide completely destroyed us because we're on -6 defense. So now at level 60, let's try this one even again. And of course we get a sand attack, and that's going to pretty much end this one. Still, we can see that Struggle is doing pretty decent damage when it does hit, but we're just going to have to restart because we're running out of HP. Once we get through with a slightly better setup, we do have one defense drop, but we easily get through Nidoking and Nidoqueen. We're on to the Rhydon at level 61, still with 235 HP. Rock Slide does do a lot of damage. We probably need at least a guard spec here, but this one might be possible here. Back again with still decent HP, but we did get one Screech in this one, and it just turns out not to be enough. Finally to the Rhydon with no defense drops, so we really just need it to guard spec like that. Rock Slide decent damage, but we do finally manage to get through at level 61. So getting to the final Rhydon at level 61 with this god tier Weedle was what it took in order to actually beat Giovanni. Giovanni is just such a beast against this Pokemon. Took 2 hours to get through that. We added a ton of optional battles and a ton of resets, but the real story of all this is that we can see the split. Since we got through Blaine, it took nearly 50 minutes to be able to get through Giovanni of real time, and I'm playing with speed ups. Sometimes when I'm just grinding, I'm even using my turbo button here, so this is not good. But we did manage to get through. We can now heal with items, of course, and just use Struggle for a while because we don't need to really go Poison Sting strats again until we get to Agatha. That being said, we might not have enough HP to get through Rival 6 since he has 6 Pokemon, but let's try it. So here against the Sandslash, this appears to be just a simple 2-hit KO. We easily get through. Against Execute, we one-shot it with a critical hit. Cloyster is of course super bulky, goes for Withdraw, but this is going to be a 3-hit KO. The Magneton gets an easy one-hitter. Kadabra doesn't have much defense, so it goes down nicely. And out comes the Flareon. It goes for Flamethrower, and we're going to knock ourselves out because of recoil. If we didn't get the Flamethrower there, I think we would have gotten through. This time we do get the critical hit on the Flareon, knock it out in one shot, and we still had 9 HP remaining. So just like that, we did manage to beat our rival, and it's on to the Elite Four. Now, the real wall that remains in front of us is Agatha, of course. Agatha is the one trainer against whom we cannot go struggle strats. So we're going to have to go into that fight with PP in the move Poison Sting. We might even have to use PP ups there. I'm not sure, but that could be the point where this run becomes completely terrible. The real reason why Agatha and Giovanni are so bad though is because so many of their Pokemon can't be poisoned. If we could poison these opponents, then in theory at least, we could get through with fewer turns and less luck, but there's just simply nothing to do when you actually have to damage them with Poison Sting in order to win the fight. So I'm not very confident going into Agatha, and that might be the spot where we simply have to slam all the rare candies, and it still might not be enough. We might end up having to level grind against the Elite Four over and over, but still we will at least try it because hey, we've got to try to beat the game at as low a level as possible. We're aiming to beat the game at lower than level 92. Earlier in the run, I was feeling really confident about that, but now I'm kind of worried because we had to gain so many levels just to beat Giovanni, and he only had 3 Pokemon that were 4 times resistant to Poison Sting, and we could at least struggle on those Pokemon in order to avoid having to use that move. So Agatha could be potentially completely terrible here. We'll just kind of have to see. Still, I do think that we'll be able to make our way through Lorelei pretty easily. Bruno shouldn't be terrible. Lance, once we get to him, will only resist us with Aerodactyl, even if we're going Poison Sting strats. And then it's just a question of whether or not we have enough to get through the champion. Now, because we don't know how much we're going to have to grind here, I'm going to put all my other Pokemon into the PC and then just quickly heal up with a max potion. And let's just see if we can manage to get through Lorelei, get through Bruno, and at least make our way to Agatha for the first time. So Lorelei attempt number 1 here. We're just going struggle strats. She rests with her Dugong, but this is still looking to be a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. Cloyster comes out next. This one's looking like a 3-hitter without a crit. Still, we do knock it out. Out next is the Slowbro, and the real problem here is that she's just super bulky. We knock it out though. Jinx comes out, and it's an easy 1-hitter. We just don't have enough HP to knock out the Lapras. So we are going to have some PP in our attacking moves in order to get through this one. The question is, can we get through with all the PP in Poison Sting? I'm going to try it. Let's just see if Poison Sting is enough. So the logic here is that at least with Poison Sting, we are reasonably survivable. We have a high critical hit chance. We're going to do a lot of damage. So we get through the first Dugong with no damage taken. And here, a move like Ice Beam really didn't do that much to us. So as long as we don't get frozen, we're probably fine, at least against the Cloyster here. Now it does confuse us, which is kind of bad, but we do manage to get through. We're on to Slowbro, which does know Amnesia and Psychic. So we've got to be careful, but it's a 3-hitter there. Poison Sting does really good damage here against Jinx because it has low defense. And now against the Lapras, it goes Blizzard and freezes us. So that guarantees that we lose this attempt. But still, it's looking like we can get through using Poison Sting in this fight. So I'm simply going to save the game here and try this again. So back to Lapras on the next attempt. It paralyzes us with Body Slam, but at least that means we can't be frozen. So we easily get through on the second attempt. So now at level 63, we're ready to go take on Bruno. I'm gonna just go ahead and heal up here. I'm not gonna worry about the full restore. I only have 1 of them in the bag, but I don't think I'm gonna be dealing with that much status, so I think this is okay. Let's go ahead and try him. So here against Bruno, I'm just going to go for the Poison Stings. He digs with Onyx, so he's just kind of trolling us, taking his time. He does know Rock Slide, but Onyx doesn't have a good attack stat, so we're not too worried about that. And here we do manage to knock that Pokemon out. Out next comes the Hitmonchan. It appears to be a 2-hit KO here, so we easily get through it. Hitmonlee's next. It's going for high jump kick, but that does nothing to a Weedle. And now we poison the second Onyx. So while we're running low on PP, the fact that we have poison on this Pokemon I think will be enough to get through here. So finally the Machamp comes out. This is looking like a 2-hitter, and we missed the turn because of paralysis, so he knocks us out on the first attempt. Next attempt, we're back to the Machamp, and this time we have enough HP to struggle it down, so we did manage to beat Bruno. Wasn't perfectly consistent, but we did get the job done. Now, however, we have to recover all of our PP because we have to be able to get through Agatha. This could be rough. I'm gonna try this and see if it doesn't work. If we run out of PP, we'll add on PP ups here, but otherwise we may just end up slamming our rare candies or coming back after grinding a ton of levels here. Let's just see. Now, the one thing we have going for us is that Gengar does not have great defense, and we do have a massive 389 attack stat. Still, we did like 13 damage here, so this is going to be at least an 11 hit KO normally to get through, and she substitutes. Now, if she swaps to Golbat, that's actually kind of good for us because she's not going to be able to recover that HP. Still, you add on that we get confused a lot in this fight, so we end up hitting ourselves. That's part of what makes this one so tough. Still, we knock out the Golbat there. We're back to the Gengar. It paralyzes us. That's going to protect us from sleep later on, so I'm not actually too worried about that. And this first Gengar, fortunately, doesn't know the move Psychic, so we're going to survive pretty well here. A move like Mega Drain literally does 1 damage. The other concern, of course, is the fact that Agatha does have super potions to use on her Pokemon though. And because of those super potions, we're not going to have enough PP to get through this. So I think we're going to have to now use the PP ups in order to make this fight work. So I'm just going to slam 3 PP ups into Poison Sting, and let's see if this is now enough. With 3 PP ups, we're up to having 56 PP in this move. So this time we do knock out the first Gengar. We're on to Golbat, already paralyzed. Nothing to do about that, but we do knock Golbat out as well as we get to level 64. She swaps to Arbok, which is perfectly fine by me. And here, fortunately, Poison Sting does knock that one out. She can't Dream Eater with this Haunter, which is very nice. But we have taken a bunch of defense drops from that Arbok, and that is leading to us doing massive damage when we hit ourselves in confusion, and then she psychics us down. So this is clearly going to be at least very luck based at this level. I'm still going to grind it out a few more times just to see if I can get the luck, but otherwise we may have to start adding on more levels. Now, one of the best things that she can do for us is to actually swap between her Pokemon after using Substitute. When she does that, of course, it means that she can't heal the damage, so we easily knock that Pokemon out. So this time we managed to make it all the way to the final Gengar with no defense drops, and it can use Dream Eater while we're awake. Hypnosis can't hit us, so it's only Psychic and Confuse Ray that we're actually worried about here. Granted, its Psychic does a lot of damage. It's only 1 in 4 to use that move though. Still, it uses it this time and we go down. So I'm starting to think that we probably need to grind out more levels in order to get through this one. We can try the rare candies here though. Let's just see if that's enough. So I have 6 rare candies in the bag. I'm simply going to slam them all and get to level 69, the nicest level for Goddle for 2069. Let's just see if it is enough. So if nothing else, level 69 did give us a lot more HP and a lot more in all of our stats. So hopefully that translates into more survivability here. So here we do manage to get to the final Gengar, and we are doing about 20 damage per hit with our Poison Sting. So at that range, this would be about an 8-hit KO. And we just hit ourselves in confusion and knock ourselves out, but we got really close there. So it's clearly possible, just not likely to get through this fight. One attempt later though, we managed to get to the final Gengar with no defense drops. So this is basically the best shot that we've had at this one because we won't do as much damage to ourselves when we hit ourselves in confusion. So now we just have to land the hits. Here we're getting some nice crits here. We're getting very, very close. One more hit would have gotten it without her healing, and she goes for Dream Eater while we're awake. We're confused, but then we manage to hit her, so finally, it's taken a small eternity, but we do manage to beat Agatha at level 69. So that was rough. We're gonna have to heal up here, and I don't have any full restores in the bag, so we're gonna have to stay paralyzed apparently. But hey, we've made it this far. I'm just gonna go ahead and recover my PP. At this point, I think we're just going Poison Sting the whole way. Let's see if this is enough to get through Lance. So Lancey Boy attempt number 1. Here Hydro Pump did decent damage, but it's not that bad. Poison Sting is doing a lot to Gyarados, so we managed to knock it out in 3 hits. Here the Dragonair appears to be a 2-hitter. Didn't do that much with Hyper Beam, so I'm not too worried about it. Now we do get wrapped by the Dragonair, but we're still faster even with the paralysis, which is kind of hilarious, honestly. So we knock that Pokemon out, we get to level 70. Aerodactyl is faster than us, and it has super effective flying type moves, but here we do poison it, and it's not doing that much. We knock it out, we still have 194 HP on the final Dragonite. Fire Blast is doing a lot of damage here though. So clearly we just needed a couple more turns where we did move and we would have been able to knock that Dragonite out. So I do think this is possible even though we're paralyzed here. This time we poison Dragonite and we managed to land the final hit, so we do knock it out. Took a few attempts there, really not nearly as bad as Agatha to get through Lance, even though we were still paralyzed. But now we have to defeat the champion, and this is where this all could just go completely off the rails. So I am going to recover PP here, of course, and we just have to see if this is somehow enough. Here at level 70, we don't have any rare candies in the bag, so if we fail here, we're just going to have to go back through the entire Elite Four again. So champion attempt number 1. Let's see how we do against this Sand Slash here. We did about 29 damage with the critical hit there. So this one is not going to go down quick. We can poison it though, and that should be enough to allow us to get through this. It's not like its slashes are doing that much damage. Out next is Alakazam. It lowers our accuracy twice, and then goes for Psychic and gets a critical hit. That is not what we wanted to see. Now we have no accuracy and we're paralyzed, so we're definitely just not getting through that one. So next attempt back at Alakazam, it goes for Psybeam this time instead, which does decent damage, but it's just a 2-hit KO with Poison Sting. Now Exeggutor, we nearly one-shot with a crit. It's a 2-hitter. The Magneton gets poisoned and is also looking like a 2-hit KO. Very nice. We get to level 71 on Cloyster. We poison it as it goes for Clamp, so at least it's taking some damage each turn. And I think we need a crit here. We don't get it, but still we do manage to get through. Flareon's out last. It goes Reflect against us. We poison it. Flamethrower didn't do enough, and we managed to beat the champion in 2 hours and 40 minutes. So it wasn't perfect by any means, but still with god tier stats, a Weedle does beat the game at a lower level than a 0 base stat total Mewtwo does. So this is the first situation that we've seen where moveset did not completely trump stats. Higher stats does allow you to beat the game faster with this Pokemon in spite of the fact that it has no moves, and it beats the game at a lower level than a 0 base stats Pokemon. Kind of makes sense. But still, there were a lot of spots where I think Psychic was just as strong as our Poison Sting effectively, and yet Poison Sting carried the day. So honestly, that was ridiculous, and I would be asking why if I was the rival too, because how could you lose to a Weedle? Even a god tier Weedle, it's still a Weedle at the end of the day. We ended up with stats hovering around 438, slightly more speed, slightly less special, but really not too bad. And with that, we will register Goddle 42069 into the Hall of Fame. And yeah, that was pretty cool. That was fun. But now I have one last burning question, which is, can we beat Professor Oak with this Pokemon? You know, let's just up the challenge a little bit from the champion. So we end up right back here in Pallet Town. I'm going to ask Mom to heal me up, and I'm going to go fight Professor Oak now. So Professor Oak here, he leads off with Tauros. We take almost no damage from its takedown. It goes Rage now. We're easily going to knock that Pokemon out. Out next is Exeggutor. This is not going to be too hard, but he does put us to sleep. Fortunately, he doesn't know any really good moves, so it's just a 2-hit KO there. Arcanine is out next. Its only super effective move is Ember, so we should get through this one just fine. And sure enough, we do. We even poison it. We get to level 72 as Venusaur comes out. It's going for Solar Beam. We're not too worried about that move. We're easily going to knock it out. And Gyarados comes out. This level 70 Gyarados just never has a chance against the legend that is Goddle. Oh no, I renamed him Godful. Sorry, I'm gonna fix my name here. There we go, Goddle 42069. Let's just fight the other Professor Oaks. Let's see how many Professor Oaks we can beat with our God tier little Weedle. So here, once again, he's got the Tauros. We're easily gonna knock it out. Exeggutor comes out next. Get the easy 2-hitter. Arcanine is out. He's going for his Ember strats, but we did poison this Pokemon and we get a nice crit. Very nice. Knock it out right there. We get to level 73. Charizard is out with the Flamethrower and the Fire Spin. We get a nice crit, but then he crits us back, so we go down. I didn't go into that fight with a heal though, so let's go ahead and get that heal on and now try to beat him once again. So let's try this one again. We easily get through Tauros. Once again, get put to sleep by Exeggutor. Not what we wanted to see. Still, we will manage to knock it out. The Arcanine, once again, only knows Ember, so we're not too worried about that. Easily knock that one out. Charizard, this time we get a nice crit. He is fire spinning us, but another good crit, and we knock that one out. Finally, Gyarados. It did a lot of damage there, and it knocks us out with a Dragon Rage, so we are pretty clearly going to have to heal here. We can't go 2 Oaks in a row, but that's okay. This is by far and away the toughest Oak for this little Weedle, and even still, we're going to completely destroy him. Now, we do get burned this time, but fortunately, critical hits will ignore the stat drop, so we just need a crit here, and we can manage to get through this one eventually, though we are burned and in Fire Spin. No. Oh, that's terrible. So we actually go down. Even from full health, this Professor Oak is far too powerful. So once again, back to Gyarados. It goes for the Hyper Beam, and that basically guarantees the win. Not a super consistent fight there against that Professor Oak, though, when he has a Charizard. So there is one Professor Oak left. Of course, it is the Blastoise team Professor Oak. I think we're going to destroy him, so let's just go for it. Let's make it a perfect 3-for-3 sweep with our God tier little Weedle. So of course, the first 3 Pokemon never change. We easily get through them. Now out comes Blastoise. We poison it, misses the Hydro Pump. It bites us, does not matter. The Hydro Pump wasn't even that strong. We get to level 74 as we get to the final Gyarados, and here it can Dragon Rage all that it wants. We get to the easy victory, and just like that, Goddle 42069 has defeated not only the entire game, but even 3 Professor Oaks. So this Pokemon, far too powerful, and finishing the game at level 74, definitely an impressive performance given that we had only effectively 1 attacking move plus struggle for the entire run. Anyway, tell me what you guys think about this. Clearly it shows just how bad a Weedle is, but at the same time, how good it could be if it had perfect stats. I had a lot of fun playing it. I hope you had fun watching it. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next one. Later.